Hi everybody, and welcome to my September makes and October plans. I feel like I had a really good month sewing. My boyfriend came up and stayed with me for a whole week, and it was so great to have him here to help out with all the things that I needed to get done around the house so that I could spend more time sewing. We also are fostering a second dog now, so he was a huge help in getting her transitioned into our household, and I'm just very grateful that he came up to stay with me, and I got a lot done this month. To start with the contemporary projects that I finished this month, the first things that I did were the two Sew House 7 patterns I had mentioned in my plans last month. The first was the Sew House 7 Burnside bibs, which I made from a 1C64 black linen from fabricstore.com. I made these for my sister as a birthday gift, so they're not really my normal style, but they were a ton of fun to make. They sewed together really easily, really quickly, and it was a really great pattern. I made two changes to this pattern. The first were to taper the legs a bit, and then also to use flat felled seams on all the seams. It was actually really easy to add flat felled seams everywhere, and I think that it really added a lot to the look with how much top stitching there is. The only thing that made it a little more difficult for me to do flat felled seams was that I constructed the pants first before I tapered them, because I didn't have a live fit model of my sister. I was just following some measurements and some photos she had sent me of some tapered pants that she liked a lot. So I wanted to construct the pants first so I could see how they went together before I tapered them. But if I were to taper them in the future, I already know which changes I would need to make, and I would be able to sew flat felled seams from the beginning, in which case they would be no problem to add. One thing that I didn't notice on the pattern envelope when I was sewing was, at the beginning, was that it says to make sure the finished waist measurement is the same as your hips measurement. And my hips are bigger than my sister's, and so when I tried to try these on for the first time, because I made the view without a zipper in them, I had to do a lot of wiggling and jiggling in order to get them on. So I did get them on, but if I were to make them for myself, I would make the waist opening bigger and also maybe add a little bit in the hips. The fit was snug, but not too snug. I would prefer a little more ease in a woven garment just to not put much stress on the seams, although I did do a flat felled seam, which is a fairly strong seam. These were a lot of fun to wear. As I said, I wouldn't make them for myself, but it was fun to get dressed up and wear them for a little bit. I might make them again though for my friend, and it'll be a joy to sew them again. Next, I finished the tea house dress from Sew House 7 using a Merlot and white cross-dyed linen from fabrics.com. This was the first time that I purchased a linen not from fabricstore.com, and I was a little nervous at first to see it. It came out a beautiful color. It was so soft and really drapey, so it was very nice. Although the first thing that I usually do when I get a linen is I pull a weft yarn out in order to help me square the fabric and get it on grain. And I don't know if it was because this fabric was yarn dyed, but I couldn't get a weft yarn more than an inch without it disintegrating in my fingers. Luckily, since it was a cross dyed, it was really easy for me to see my way to cut a pretty straight line across and get it on grain. But it did make me worry a little bit about the longevity of the garment that I'm making in case the yarns in this fabric are on the weaker end. I mean, linen is not the strongest yarn in general. It does break out, but I have never seen linen just completely disintegrate in my fingers like this before. So I sewed the tea house dress all with French seams. She does recommend you using French seams on quite a few of the seams in the instruction booklet. The only seam she doesn't have you doing French seams is the front two seams, because the upper part of it is hidden by the yoke facing, and you wouldn't want a French seam under that facing because it would be really bulky. So what I did actually was I blended a French seam on the lower part of the skirt into a normal seam underneath the yoke so that it wouldn't be bulky. The way that I did that was I marked the place where the yoke facing would end, and from that point down, since the finished seam allowance was 5/8 inch, I sewed a 1/4 inch seam with the fabric wrong sides together. Then I pressed it, turned it, and when I turned it, of course, on the lower portion I had now folded, clean, finished edge of the fabric where the seam was, and above that I had plain raw edges of fabric. So I kind of graded that fold out and had it transition into being unfolded, and then I sewed a 5/8 inch seam, and when I got down to the part where I had the seam before, it was only a 3/8 inch seam, and so that gave me a French seam on the bottom, no French seam on the top, so I was able to close the top portion of it with the yoke facing. This dress felt a little odd at first when I put it on. It doesn't come right up under the bust, and it doesn't come directly on your waist either. It's somewhere in the middle, and it felt odd at first, and I thought it might have been wrong on my body because I have such a short torso, but when I looked at the pattern envelope, it looks the same on the pattern envelope. It's actually a really flattering place. I feel like it makes me look a lot taller, but it felt weird at first just because I'm not used to it. I've also seen some people who have made this dress who were able to tie it in the front, and I didn't feel like my ties were long enough to tie it in the front and still have a pretty bow. So if I were to make it again, I would make the ties a lot longer, so I could even maybe wrap it around a couple times and have it look a little bit like an obi belt. This pattern was such a great make. She did a lot of really interesting things with using ease in order to get the fabric pieces to be curved nicely. And I feel like I learned a lot when I was sewing this pattern, and I feel like you're always lucky if you get to actually learn something when you're sewing. The last contemporary piece that I did was I dyed the knit dress that I had talked about in my last plans video. I used the acid dye color Avocado from Dharma Trading, and the color came out so beautiful. I'm really in love with it. The only thing is that I managed to rip a hole in the skirt while I was dyeing it. I use paint stirrers to stir while I'm dyeing because these dyes are not food safe and I wouldn't want to use any spoon that I just had laying around my kitchen. However, I forgot to sand one of them before I used it to stir, and so it snagged a hole in the skirt. So now I have to figure out how I'm going to patch that hole and still make the dress look nice before I can wear it. So that was a little sad and it was totally my fault, but the color came out perfectly even and a really, really pretty color, so I'm super happy with it. I made a hat. Every time that I make a hat, it feels kind of like it was an out-of-body experience for me. Hats seem like such a difficult, complicated thing to make, and they are, and I'm no milliner, but every time I make a hat, I'm just like, I can't believe that I actually did that, and I love how this one turned out. I made it from the same fabric as my English gown, and even though that's not historically accurate, and a lot of people actually complain about it because it makes it seem more like a costume instead of an actual historically accurate thing. But at the Renaissance Festival, we are not doing perfect reenactment, and people come there to see characters, and they get really excited when they see a perfectly matching outfit. So I'm really happy with this hat. I attached some feathers, which also came from a vendor at the festival, and I'm just really excited about it. While I was making it, I was having such a good time. I actually wish that I had been filming me making it, but I don't like to film things the first time around I make them because I want to be sure of every step that I'm going to take before I start filming it. So even though I don't sell the things that I make, I kind of am hoping that someone will ask to buy one of these hats from me so that I can film myself making the process again. The one new thing that I tried in this hat making process was I sewed the wire into the brim by machine. And you guys know that if there's a hand sewing option, I'm going to do the hand sewing option. And that's how I did my French hood, which I don't recommend for a first hat project. And it was such a pain to sew the wire into the French hood. But so this time I sewed it on the machine and it was so quick and easy. I felt like the wire went in smoother and more even, and it's more secure even than the hand sewing. So I am totally a convert. Machine sewing in the wire for life. I highly recommend it if you choose to make a hat. The other historical sewing that I did was just to alter my skirt. I had mentioned in my previous plans video that the front of the skirt was not laying flat. So I just picked up the front a little bit so that now it's laying flat. This is where I love the way that I sew my historical skirts and bodices together. I completely clean finished both before I attach them. So there was no raw edges or fraying that I was dealing with by taking out the stitches and altering the way it was sewn together. And since the skirt was clean finished, I actually just kind of tucked it back in on itself so I maintained a finished edge. And the original edge is just hiding down in the skirt, so that I was able to get the perfect shape that I want and not do a lot of work. I also meant to sew some more trim on the skirt, and it was just a really busy week for me and I wasn't able to do it, but I'll be getting to that really soon next week. I finally got the curtains made for my dining room area. Again, I was so happy that my boyfriend was here with me because taking down those old nasty vertical blinds was definitely a two-person job. We almost hurt ourselves a few times, so he helped me take the blinds down. I was able to put the new curtain rod and the new curtains up. These were such a quick make. They're not like real professional curtains. They're not lined or anything. And I didn't want to have light blocking or anything. I wanted to let a lot of light into the space. I just wanted something there for privacy and to add a little bit of visual interest. So what I did was I ironed interfacing on the top part of the curtains, folded them down, and sewed on some pleating tape so I could attach them to curtain rings. And then hung them up, marked where my hem would be, turned the hem twice, and sewed the bottom hem. I didn't even hem the selvages, which my best friend kind of yelled at me about, but I like them the way they are. I think they look a little more rustic and a little more casual that way, and I'm so happy with how they turned out. It We got them done in time for a party that I was holding, and it just made the space look a lot better. I also got a few projects half finished this month, so let's talk about them in my October plans. First of all, I started some embroidery on this bag. I thought this was going to be a quick and easy project, and this bag, it looks deceptively easy to sew through. It is really tough to get a needle through this fabric. I'm having to use a pair of pliers to pull the needle out every time. So the project's going a little bit slower than I'd like, but it is going. Also, the way that I'm sewing it makes it a little difficult because there is a lining in the bag, and I'm sewing it so I'm just on the outer layer, so I'm not trapping the lining at all by the stitches, so the inside of the bag will still look nice. I am really happy with how it's going. I'm really happy with how the pattern's going on the bag and how all the colors are looking with the bag, but it's just going to take me a lot longer than I thought it would. Not having a big historical multi-part project to work on left me feeling a little bit aimless when I was thinking about what I was actually going to sew this month. And I won't have a ton of time for sewing this month since the Renaissance Festival is starting, and all my weekends will be spent at the festival. I'll be really tired during the week from all the driving that I do to and from the festival, so I won't be getting as much sewing done. I probably, unfortunately, won't be doing as many videos either, but I still wanted to have some projects done. And seeing a bunch of fall palettes and fall fashion collections, I got really inspired by some leather touches that I was seeing on things. And then at Hobby Lobby they had a stretch faux leather in their seasonal section, and so I wanted to maybe get that fabric and do something with it. I also got a lot of inspiration from all the photos people were sharing in Sew Photo Hop. It has been such a fun month of that on Instagram, and I'm proud to say I've done every day of Sew Photo Hop, so very excited to have actually finished it. And I was so inspired by especially the day that was called Inside Out, and all the inside finishes people were showing with interesting linings and bright colored bias finishings, and so I thought I might want to do something like that as well. Then as I was looking around Instagram and seeing some sewing patterns, I came across the Morris blazer from Grainline Studios, and I thought that would be perfect to do out of the stretch leather because it feels like a really deconstructed leather jacket, like not so stiff because of the flowy collar. And then I was like, ooh, this would be really fun to put a really fun, interesting lining in. Except the Morris blazer doesn't have a lining in it. So I decided to do it anyways. I went and got the stretch leather from Hobby Lobby, and I started to look for a lining for it. I couldn't use a normal lining because it is a stretch fabric and a stretch pattern, and you would need a stretch lining, so I knew that I had kind of had my work cut out for me looking for one. Then, during the month of September, also on Instagram, I won one of the weeks of the Sew Your Heart Out September contest from Hearts Fabrics, and they gave me a gift card. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity to both look for the lining for that jacket and also get inspiration for more projects that I wanted to do. The first thing that I do whenever I go to a new fabric store online is I look in their wool, linen, and silk sections. With all of the historical sewing that I do, I'm always looking for a good deal and interesting fabrics, so I was looking there. I didn't really find anything in their wool or silk section that I liked, but in their linen section, they had this metallic linen from Robert Kaufman. I have been obsessed with metallic linen ever since I saw the behind-the-scenes photos from the designer on Outlander, because Claire's wedding dress is made out of a silver metallic linen. I know that I'll never sew Claire's wedding dress, but it's still really intriguing to me, and they had all kinds of different colors, so I knew that I wanted to do something with that. I also started looking in the rayon section to see if there was a good stretch rayon that would be for the lining for my Morris blazer. I didn't find a stretch rayon that I liked, but they had this really pretty black rayon with these red flowers on it, and they had marked as an employee favorite, so I knew it would be a good fabric. So then I went to their pattern section to see if I could get some inspiration, because I don't like just buying fabric without having something in mind for what I'm going to do with it. They had a fantastic selection of indie patterns, even from some companies that I had never heard of before, so it was really great looking through that, and I found a couple patterns that I wanted to get. First, I found the Ansa top and dress from Names Clothing. This dress is so pretty, and I really like the pleating details across the front, but I'm trying to hold off on making dresses and really focus on making clothes that I can wear to work, so I wanted to make the top instead. And I decided that would be perfect for the black floral rayon I had seen, and I made sure to get enough of that. This was an awesome part about Hearts Fabrics' online service because you can subdivide your fabric. There's a lot of fabric stores out there that will only let you buy by the yard online and not by the half yard or quarter yard. And at Hearts Fabrics, I could choose exactly the amount of fabric that I needed, so I was really happy with that. The next pattern that I found was the Hoya top from Deer and Doe. I'm really obsessed with wrap dresses and wrap tops, and I really liked even though this was a fake one, it didn't make me mad because it didn't have a fake tie. The sleeveless version and the sleeved version I feel like have very different vibes, and I like that it could feel like two completely different garments from the same pattern. So I knew this would be the perfect opportunity to use the Robert Kaufman metallic linen. This is the linen that I got. It's black with gold lurex yarns in it, so it has a shiny bit of gold in it. And I actually haven't decided whether I'm going to make the Hoya top out with the sleeveless version or the sleeved version yet. I got enough fabric to make the sleeved version, so even if I make the sleeveless version, I'm going to still have fabric left over to do something else with this really gorgeous fabric. And I actually wound up buying a little bit too much. At first I was like, wow, this pattern uses a ton of fabric, but then I realized that it's fully lined on the front, so you have to buy extra fabric for that lining. However, ever since I was little and in dance classes and things, metallic fabric has always irritated my skin, and the skin on my chest and the front half of my body is really sensitive. So I decided that I would line this top with just a normal black linen. I still have plenty of black linen left over from the Burnside bibs I made for my sister, because fabricstore.com requires you to buy a full yard. They don't allow for half yards or anything. So I'll have plenty of fabric from that left over to line the inside with a plain linen and just have the metallic linen on the outside where it won't irritate my skin as much. But I still haven't decided if I want to do long sleeve or sleeveless. The long sleeve is great. My work gets really cold, but I do feel like it's a little more business formal than my work, and it would require me to iron it every time I wanted to wear it. The sleeveless version I could wear to work with a sweater, but I also feel like it could be very formal with a nice skirt. So it would be fun to wear to like Christmas or New Year's parties with the shiny, shimmery fabric. Let me know in the comments below if you think I should make the sleeved or the sleeveless Hoya top, because I really need your guys' help with this decision. So after I ordered those fabrics from Hearts, I next went to fabric.com to look around for some more fabric, and especially for a lining for my Morris blazer. I finally had the idea to look at ITY because it's a pretty silky knit and it usually comes in bright, fun colors. I actually wanted the lining of this jacket to be something super obnoxious. I'm really conservative sometimes in the way that I dress, and I don't wear obnoxious prints. Like Sovi on Instagram, who wears all those beautiful African wax prints, I just could not do that. So I wanted something on the inside of the jacket that was really fun, that didn't have to be on the outside. So I found this gorgeous abstract ITY on fabric.com, and it's so bright and fun. I like that it is more abstract and not geometric, because sometimes little things about patterns irritate me. So I really like this fabric, and I was even happier when I got it in because it's really, really thin ITY, thinner ITY than I felt before. So I am so happy with it. It's going to make a great lining for the jacket. So far I have cut out and sewn the shell of the jacket. I've also patterned and cut out the lining. I just have to insert the lining into the jacket and then I'll be all done with it. So the other reason that I was shopping on fabric.com was that my friend was telling me about this maternity top she was in love with, but they were all sold out online, and I told her that I'd make her one. So I got some lace and some matching bamboo spandex in order to make her a top. It's kind of like a crop top, and it has lace sleeves that don't have a lining, and then of course the body of it's lined. I also got a really cute lace looking zipper from Hobby Lobby for the back, since the lace doesn't stretch a ton even though it is technically stretch lace, and I want it to be easy for her to get into. I'm going to be using the Deer and Doe Free Plantain pattern to make this crop top because I liked a lot how it came in under the bust before going back out. So I was able to crop it right at that line, and then I'm just going to split the back to add a zipper. I've never sewn the pattern before, but I'm really excited about it. It seems like a very nice pattern for a free pattern. And I also printed out a second copy so I could make one for myself. The last pattern that I bought this month was the gable top from Jennifer Lauren Handmade Patterns. I saw some of her patterns on Instagram, and when I went on her website to look for more, I fell in love with the gable top. It's exactly the type of pattern that I've been looking for some striped double brushed poly that I bought last year in order to make a boat neck 3/4 sleeve top. This is actually a slash neck, so it's a little bit higher, but I do have a couple slash neck tops already that I got ready to wear, so I know that I like them, and I'm really excited to use this pattern to do it. For historical makes, I told you that I was going to sew a little bit more trim on the dress, but really I'm done, and so I have of course had already my idea for my next dress for a couple months now. I was kind of trying to hold myself back because I needed to put my effort into the dress I was still working on and not the next project. So I am now going to be in the research and materials phase of my whole next garment. It's going to be a 1490s Italian Renaissance dress, which is inspired completely by a painting. I haven't done a dress inspired by a painting completely before. I'm going to do my best to copy every aspect of it, except for it has a really long train in the painting. I'm going to cut the train off. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm just going to be researching fabrics and patterns and instructions and things like that for right now. I'm relying really heavily on the website The Realm of Venus. This is kind of the Italian Renaissance counterpart to the ElizabethanCostuming.com, which has so many great resources for Elizabethan and Tudor costumes. So it's a great website. I've really enjoyed pouring through it. She has some really high quality images of the exact dress that I'm looking to copy on her website, so it's a really great resource. If I get to it this month, I need to make a little matching cafe curtain for over the sink in my kitchen to match the curtains that I just made, but I probably won't get to it because, like I said, I'm going to be really tired this month. Thanks so much for watching. In the comments below, let me know what your plans are for the month of October. Also share with me, if you can, what your favorite inspiration has been for fall fashion this season. And don't forget to let me know whether you think I should make the Hoya top with sleeves or without sleeves. Since I might not be posting as many videos this month, also make sure that you follow me on Instagram at MsJenL10, just the same as my YouTube username, because I'll be posting there a lot about my adventures at the Renaissance Festival. There will be lots of cute pictures of dogs on my stories. You guys shouldn't miss it.